Friday, May the 4th, 2018, and I'm doing a very local walk today, a circular of my hometown, Hitchin. It will either be about 13 mile or 16, depending on how I get on. Weather's grey, muggy, not raining though, so that's the main thing. It's about 11:45, need to press on. First part of the walk is up these alleyways, which I know very well. This is Burton's path. New housing development going in alongside this path with improvements to the fence, which is good to know. This used to be quite a dicey footpath to walk in years gone by. Ideal mugger territory. Coming out of the third alleyway, you come into Highbury Road, opposite the girls' school. Passing Highbury Post Office and the houses where I was raised, and taking the small footpath up past my former infant school. So there we have it, the site of my formative years. Used to be allotments on the left here, where these houses have since gone up. We used to have one. Passing Cemetery Lodge. This cemetery houses many of my maternal ancestors. Standhill Spinney, and just behind it you've got the part of the cemetery where those that have been burnt go, and that's where some of my paternal relatives are. So as I say, this is all familiar terrain for me, which is why I've left this walk right until last, really, of the local walks. A little bit of local knowledge here. The text refers to us taking a left here at this road junction, but as I say, I'm going to use a bit of local knowledge and go left by those bins, because you can get onto the footpath, a raised footpath over there. And by following this raised footpath up over the A602, we then approach the countryside at last. At the rear of the Three Moorhens pub here on my left, just before crossing over the A602, we're about a mile in, 18 minutes or so. And following the Hicker Way, take the hard right here, referred to in the text, which runs alongside the A602. Chestnuts are spreading. The vista that we've got lying in wait for us. Looking back at whence I've come. Skylarks all about, lovely to hear. This solitary tree referred to in the text has been here since I was a kid. Took shelter under it once from a rainstorm. Continuing on our journey towards Charlton village. Now on Brickkiln Lane, walking towards Charlton village. Passing Charlton's piggery. Sponsor a pig, rare breeds. Crossing over the River Hiss, which starts a few hundred metres from here. This is part of the same river that passes round the back of where I live, filmed on the Olsey to Letchworth walk. And opposite is what used to be the Fountain pub, Henry Bessemer's birthplace, Hitchin's claim to fame. The house formerly known as Gracelands is no longer such. It's now Spring Cottage. Walking along Windmill Lane, because not so long ago Charlton used to have a windmill, hence the pub, which incidentally locals are trying to restore as a community pub. Former owner tried to convert it into a residential property, and then got stopped, and shortly after there was a fire, suspiciously. Anyway, plans are afoot to return it back to its former glories. Now following a classic greenway. Just seen a pair of linnets and a goldfinch on this hedge. Fantastic to see. Shame I couldn't get them on camera though. Just goes to show though that where you have hedges, the old wildlife, particularly the birds, love it and will return. To my left is the view towards Soot Green, I think it's called, from memory. Got the warning note of a whitethroat in this hedge, I believe. Clearly I can't see it, but its warning note is evident. That view I showed you a moment ago was in fact Wellhead, which clearly is the source of the River Hiss. Massively drawn upon, gets dry in the summer. You can hear that whitethroat now in the background. Bit like a squirrel. Plenty of skylarks around, that's good to know. Goldfinches, linnets, wonderful. And all because there's a few hedges around. And of course this field being left fallow for the year has got umpteen seeds in it, weeds. Look at that lot that, you know, just attract wildlife. Unfortunately no collared doves though. Sorry, not collared, turtle, which I've just been reading about in my magazine. Massively declined. Crossing over what I believe is called Hawes Lane, Haws, which runs between the A602 and eventually Preston, I think. Ahead is the A602, which currently is never out of earshot. Our onward journey is below these pylons. Turn left here along the Charlton way. It's not the A602 here, it's the A505. What am I talking about? Sun's now out, so let's get a better view of the surrounding scenery. And as you can hear, the A505 is dying away, only to be replaced by jet noise. Occasionally, planes landing at Luton. 1 o'clock. The view from the top of the hill next to Aldwick's plantation, referred to in the text and on the map. Just as forecast, it's got a bit cloudier now. Over on my right there is towards Hitchin. We're almost now into Offley, Great Offley. Not a great bluebell wood, this one, but there are some about here. Unfortunately this walk doesn't pass any to my knowledge. Great in the background. Onward journey towards Great Offley. Got the old aircraft model club over there. I think I've passed that on another walk, but not for Saturday walkers. In fact, I know I have. Now, having said that about the bluebells, I'm actually in what is a private wood here, or on the very edge of it. Wonderful display in here. In fact, this wood isn't private because the text refers to you taking it as a preferred option, which it is. It's better than the path that runs parallel to it next to the fields. The Church of St Mary Magdalene, Great Offley. The early lunchtime stop of the Red Lion. Don't know much about it because I've never been in it, but I do think it's a decent place. And for the stricken oak in the far left of this corner, where we should find a gate. Well, I know there's one, so no worries there. We're once again following a Charlton Way extension, which I believe we were on in Goring last time. Shows how far it stretches. A lovely display you've got in there. Thick, deep coloured, lovely. And that's just in a field boundary. It's got all the right ingredients, so usually oak tree not far away from good bluebell soil, I find. And I'm stood under one right here. A couple of weeks in now, they're giving off a lovely aroma as well. Fantastic. Beats that rape smell. Further views ahead. That's Lily Bottom beyond that rape field. And then Warden and Galley Hills in the background, which are part of the Leagrave to Harlington walk, I believe, which we did last summer. Onward journey here is right. Can smell that rape from here now. It's got to be 300 metres away. Just coming up to Keeper's Cottage on my right there, referred to in the text. And shortly we've got to get across the A505. Now I'm probably going to take the diversion, which adds 600 metres to the walk, but it avoids crossing over this road, which I know on a Friday afternoon is going to be very busy. I have crossed it previously on a Sunday and that was bad enough. There's been a lot of accidents on it recently as well, not involving pedestrians, but people speeding up there, turning cars upside down and God knows what else. So the 600 metre diversion is worthwhile, I'd say. Walking right next to it now. You can almost smell it being spread on your sandwiches. I've turned first right into Lilyhoo Lane, and as you can see, this is the way the Charlton Way comes, wisely in my opinion. There is the busy A505 on top there, which we're avoiding crossing. Lots of archangel here, and next to it another very pretty flower that I wouldn't know from Adam, but I'm sure someone does. Clearly a lover of chalky soil. Now joining Bridleway 101. To the left of the rusted metal field gate referred to in the text. Okay, it's judgment time. 6.5 miles into the walk, and I need to decide whether to do the 13-mile version or the 16-mile version. Those that walk straight across the A505 will have come from that direction, whereas those that have taken the avoidance route will have come from that direction. Anyway, it's just gone 2 o'clock, so I'll have a quick bite and make a decision. Still got plenty of time to do the 16 miler, I think. Question of energy though. Seems to be getting low these days. Okay, 2:45, lunch has been had on this makeshift seat here. Pile of earth next to the footpath. And I've decided to take the shortcut. Well, 13 miler. Because I'm exactly halfway there now, 6.5 miles done. And I don't want to bust my gut. I haven't done a long walk this year yet, as such. I think 11's about as far as I've been. So I need to build up slowly, not the energetic young buck I used to be. One wheel on my wagon as well. So yeah, we'll do the short walk, albeit that it means missing out on the probably the best scenery, because at Pegston Hills you get a cracking view. Anyway, let's see what lies ahead. Whilst having my lunch, I was sitting here observing these flies, the black ones with the long beards, strange looking things, around this hazel bush, and they never seem to settle. They seem to be like swifts on the wing all their life. See them a lot this time of year, and then perhaps they only have a lifespan of a day. Don't know. I'll have to investigate them. Seen them down in Norfolk before as well. That's where I first encountered them. Anyway, let's press on. This is good to see. New hedge being grown with protective fencing from the deer. Looks like they're going to do it the whole length of this path at some point. Excellent. So at this juncture you've got a couple of options. You can either go left that way, across a few arable fields, or straight ahead, as I intend to, past the house. Wonderful. I wish gaining energy for us was as simple. That's what that peacock's doing, recharging his batteries. Gone. Another cracking bluebell wood in there. Wonderful view over towards Hitchin. I'm underneath a barbed wire fence at the moment, so can't get any better images than this. As you can see. And this is interesting. It's like Arabic to me, although there is a Jewish, Hebrew, Hasidic kind of house here. Could well be that. It's interesting because although there's been a fair spread of bluebells on this walk thus far, contrary to what I was saying earlier, I haven't seen any wood anemones. Lovely vista this is. You often get herds of deer up on that hill yonder in the winter months. Not sure where they all disappear to from spring on. This, I believe, is where the alternative version of the route to this point comes out. Take a right here through this gap in the trees. Having just walked through the farmyard, loads of swallows there, building nests as well, picking up mud, some flying with feathers in their mouths. Great to see. Very pleasant views here as I ascend up the rise referred to in the text. Passing the private lake in there. Views of Hitchin in the distance on my right there as we approach Hexton Road. And over on the extreme right you've got Lister Hospital, Stevenage. Cracking afternoon now. Lots of archangel about, indicating this was previously forested field. Not sure who's dumped that pile of rubbish there or why it's there. I mean, ridiculous. I'm having to get across the busy Hexton Road. Having done so, this field always amazes me. It's got such lovely curves to it. I think last time I was here it was barley, and that's what it looks like it's going to be this year. Late sown spring barley. Wonderful. And in the middle of that field, if I'm not mistaken, there he's gone, was a kite or buzzard. Yeah, it's a buzzard. Catching the rays. Views back. Stevenage and the towers of Glaxo in the distance, drug manufacturer. Oh, lovely afternoon again, eh? Stocks of timber there, ready for the winter months. Tingley Wood on the map. And some cracking views ahead, which I shall capture in a second. The old owl nest box is still there. Good to see. So that's the village of Pirton down there with its metal water tower, and beyond that I believe is Meppershall. Which we recorded last year. Green Sand Ridge in the distance. The old wind farm over towards the A1 at Biggleswade. And coming round to my right, Hitchin Way. Now joining the Icknield Way for the walk into Pirton and probably beyond into Ickleford, I should imagine. Classic blackcap, chaffinch and chiffchaff. And of course the old collared doves, not turtle. So here we are with a very well carved village sign dating back to 77. Pirton is known for its May dances, maypole out, appropriately for this time of year as well, although I think it stays out all year from memory. There's the Motte and Bailey, which is not the recommended lunchtime stop. Walking alongside Pirton's Vicarage nature area. Yes, cattle roaming freely, so I don't think I will be. Although from past experience these are very used to humans. Information panel here about Pirton's Motte and Bailey Castle, which I have filmed before. Can't remember which walk, but I have done. Google it if you're interested about the Motte and Bailey, that is. St Mary's, Pirton. Difficult to get it all in. I'll try from the other side. Certainly haven't been in it before, so this is a first. Very plain. Part of the HIPS consortium. Holwell, Ickleford, Pirton and Shillington, I believe. No stained windows. Very simple. Looking back, straightforward organ, no bells I can see. Incredible. Is across the sports field towards the Charlton Hills. The Icknield Way stroke Hambridge Way is on my left behind that hedge. We're walking straight ahead as far as I'm aware. Lots of field walking now towards Ickleford, my current village. Further views back towards Pirton and the edge of the Chilterns there. And over there on my left is where we're ultimately headed. Oughtonhead Nature Reserve. It's one of my daily walks over there. Very nice. Now approaching the buildings of Westmill Farm, which are now nice residential conversions. Now entering Oughtonhead Common Nature Reserve. Behind it is the estate known as Westmill, quite rough in its time. Walking over the River Oughton, which is a tributary of the Hiss. Chalk stream, get brown trout in here, amongst others. Information panel about the common, which back in my youth was nothing like as manicured as it is now. It's a bit of a no-go area. but they have cattle up here and all sorts now maintaining it. That's the mill stream overflow, Hitchin's waterfall. Plenty of wagtails down there I noticed, probably grey ones. Now if you listen carefully, there's a sedge warbler in here. Not the chiff chaff. Typically it's stopped, but I often do this walk, as I said earlier. Makes a nice local 5-miler, and because it's in a nature reserve you get a fair assortment of birds in here. Sedge warblers amongst them. They've only been here a couple of weeks. Sedge warblers over there now. Probably just pick it up, but the blackbird and chiff chaff are dominating. Sounds like there's another one in here as well. It's interesting because I haven't heard a cuckoo up here, although I have heard it over where I live. Hasn't been back for about a week though, so he must have done his singing and business and cleared off again. This field here is the one where they tend to graze the longhorns. I haven't seen any today, mind you. Well, in fact only the one. The area known as the Chalky. Two options here. You can take the path alongside the field or walk alongside the river by the trees, under the trees, which is the one I'm going to take. Water gets a bit more brackish here as we approach the spring head. Goodness, this branch has collapsed in the last week or so. You can tell by the fact there's blossom on it. What the devil's happened here? Don't recall particularly strong winds recently. It's come from that horse chestnut there. Created a bit of an opening in the canopy as well. Lots of old trees up here now. That'll have to be cleared out. Make the water even more brackish. And that is the wellhead of the River Oughton. Great place to come and play as a kid, this. Not that I did much because of the notoriety of the nearby estate I mentioned. Wrong part of town for me really as well. Anyway, I'm up here a lot now because I live close by. Crop spraying out there, hence the lack of wildlife out that way. Now I think my previous filming today has been a bit dark. I've just noticed that the AF autofocus and what have you hasn't been working. Hopefully that's now remedied. There is usually information on this tree here about the tea room, opening hours and what have you, whether they're closed for wet weather or so forth. So we've just come from over there, Oughtonhead. all along that tree covered section. Views back to where we were earlier today. See, that's the one problem with this cafe. It's unreliable in its opening hours. A bank holiday Monday, which is when you'd think they'd make a lot of money, and they're shut. Anyway, there is a phone number there. Should someone wish to record that. And the opening hours, which, as I say, are unpredictable. There you go, pair of the little lovelies. Wonderful. One swallow doesn't make a summer, but there's a pair of them. Settling in nicely now. Onward journey ahead past the manure heap. Hitchin now. These lanes used to constitute part of our cross-country course when I was at school. Many happy memories from that on a cold winter's day. Last views of Meppershall over that way, Pirton and so forth, and over towards the left, if I can get it because of the sun, Offley. Monk Jack over there, and I believe this is a field they're going to build on in the not too distant. Last bit of Hitchin this. My family used to have a lavender field up here. Time's gone past. That is probably the field that we used to own. Now care home by the looks of it. I remember as a kid when this garage used to be functioning. There's a bit of history. Surprised this place is still here. Now entering West Alley, antique shops and so on. Then down into the arcade. Looking back up the arcade, where my family once had a little fruiterer's shop, greengrocers, for a short period of time. Coming out into the market square, which is spoilt by that modern monstrosity over there that used to be George Spurs, and the tea room known as Mr H's down there in the shop escapes me. That's the old corn exchange there. The old snooker hall up there, it's now some kind of bar, nightclub. This is the quintessential view of Hitchin, and as such is featured in programmes like Humans and a number of adverts. It's the old classic view really of the church and Halsey's Deli. This is St Mary's, part of the Diocese of St Albans. So I'm going to finish the walk around this area. I'm not going back down the station. No need, because I'm not parked up down there. So I'll just get around the front by the his, and the walk is done for me. We have the his, some areas behind it which I hope to capture in a moment. What's left of the market, I say that because it used to be massively bigger, suffering big time. Unlike the one at St Albans though, for some reason. Some shot of the church from this angle, unfortunately. In the winter it's easy enough because there's no foliage. But that's the end of the walk for me now, really. Further than I was anticipating, 14.5 miles, 5 3/4 hours. Had a pretty decent day for it. Can't remember what number walk it is, to be quite honest. But a pretty decent walk. Brought back some memories for me. Left it till last, as I say, of the local walks, simply because I needed a decent day, long one, and yeah, a bit too familiar for me really. But highly recommended for those that don't know the area and are up to a 16-mile walk, possibly longer. So thanks for that, Thomas. Brilliant.